If you've ever hated a soon-to-be in-law, this next story might be for you. I don't think I've ever hated someone as much as I hate Leia, my brother Lucas's girlfriend. From the moment she stepped into our lives, it was like everything about her was designed to get under my skin. But the worst part? Lucas didn't see any of it. She had him completely wrapped around her finger, and I was stuck dealing with her petty little games every time we were all together. Let me give you a few examples of the nonsense I put up with. Leia had this annoying habit of getting too close. Every time we were at a family gathering, she'd manage to find a way to invade my personal space. Whether it was standing way too close when we were talking, or casually touching my arm or shoulder while making some sarcastic comment about something I did, it drove me nuts. Lucas never seemed to notice. He'd just shrug and say, "That's just how she is." Then there was the way she would completely ignore me in conversations, unless she was putting me down, of course. I'd be in the middle of saying something and she'd cut me off to talk about herself, completely dismissing whatever I was saying. But if I made the smallest mistake or said something she didn't agree with, she was all ears, ready to pounce and correct me like she was some kind of authority on everything. Leia would even mess with my stuff. One time I brought a new game over to play with Lucas, something we'd both been excited about for weeks. Leia, of course, accidentally spilled her drink all over it before we even started. I knew it wasn't an accident. She smiled that smug little smile she always did and said, "Oops, my bad." But Lucas, oblivious as ever, thought it was no big deal. It was little things like this, petty, constant, and maddening, and Lucas never saw any of it. He thought she was great, and the more I tried to point out what she was doing, the more it drove a wedge between us. I was losing my brother to this manipulative, petty woman, and I couldn't stand it. But then Leia did something I couldn't forgive. We were at Lucas's place for dinner, and she made a snide comment about our parents. Something about how they must not have done a great job with me since I was still single and living in a bachelor pad. She said it in that fake joking way she always did, but it hit a nerve. I kept my cool, but inside I was fuming. That was the last straw. I couldn't let her get away with constantly disrespecting me and my family. That night, I started planning my revenge. Lucas is the type of guy who's always lending a hand. So whenever I visited, I'd ask if I could use his computer to look something up. He never minded. He'd hand over his laptop without a second thought. I saw my opportunity and took it. Each time I used his computer, I'd make sure to search for things like ways to pull off a surprise proposal, or how to choose the perfect engagement ring, or even will she say yes. I did this weekly for about 3 months. I knew Leia would eventually stumble across the search history, and sure enough, she did. She started dropping hints, subtle at first, but gradually getting more and more obvious. She'd mention wedding venues, look at rings, and giggle to herself like she had some big secret. Whenever we were all together, she'd shoot me these smug looks as if she thought she was about to one-up me by getting Lucas to propose. I knew better, though. Lucas had no plans to propose. In fact, he told me he wasn't sure he ever wanted to marry her, but he liked her enough to keep things going for now. He had no idea what was coming. It all came to a head one night when Leia couldn't contain herself anymore. She cornered Lucas after dinner and asked him point blank when he was going to propose. He looked at her like she had 3 heads. "What are you talking about?" he asked, genuinely confused. She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. "Don't play dumb, Lucas. I've seen your search history. You've been planning this for months." Lucas glanced at me and I could barely suppress my smirk. "I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't searched for anything like that." Leia huffed, clearly thinking he was trying to be coy. "Come on, Lucas. It's okay, you don't have to hide it. I know what you've been up to. I've even started looking at dresses." That's when it happened, the moment I'd been waiting for. Lucas, still baffled, shook his head. "Leia, I'm serious. I haven't looked up anything about proposals. I don't even know if I ever want to get married." Her face fell. She stammered, trying to recover. But what about all those searches?" Lucas shrugged. "I don't know who searched that stuff, but it wasn't me. And honestly, the way you're acting about this is kind of a turn-off. If you just left it alone, maybe I would have thought about proposing one day. But this desperation, it's not attractive." Leia was crushed. She looked like she'd just been hit by a truck. I sat there watching the whole thing unfold, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and guilt. I had set her up perfectly, and it worked even better than I had imagined. So here I am asking the internet, am I the asshole? I mean, yeah, I went out of my way to set her up, but she was awful to me, petty, manipulative, and disrespectful. I wasn't about to let her walk all over me and destroy my relationship with my brother. Still, I can't help but wonder if I went too far. Maybe I could have handled it differently. Maybe I could have just confronted her directly. But after everything she did, I couldn't resist the chance to knock her down a peg. So, am I the asshole for setting her up even though I hate her to the depths of my soul? Or did she finally get what she deserved?